Friends, our today's topic is thyroid gland, the gross anatomy of thyroid gland, where we shall learn the location, the layers of fascia covering it, its relations, arterial supply, venous drainage, lymphatic drainage, and nerve supply. So let's begin with the pretracheal fascia. So the pretracheal fascia is a modification of deep cervical fascia or the fascia coli. Remember the modifications of deep cervical fascia. Yes, we have the prevertebral fascia, pretracheal fascia, intestinal layer of deep fascia, pharyngobasilar fascia, buccopharyngeal fascia, and the carotid sheath. So the pretracheal fascia is one of those modifications, and it has two functions. One is that it forms the false capsule of thyroid gland, and secondly, as its surface is slippery, it facilitates the movements of trachea during the process of swallowing. Now coming to the attachments of the pretracheal fascia. So it has three attachments: the superior, inferior, and lateral. Superiorly, we have the hyoid bone in the median plane, then the thyroid cartilage, the oblique line on the thyroid cartilage, and the cricoid cartilage, which is the most lateral relation among the superior relations. Then coming to the inferior relations, so inferiorly, it surrounds the inferior thyroid vein, then the brachiocephalic vein, and lastly, it fuses with the arch of aorta and the pericardium. And laterally, it forms the anterior of the carotid sheath and fuses with the fascia posterior to the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Quick revision of all the attachments of pretracheal fascia. So superiorly, we have the hyoid bone in the median plane, then the thyroid cartilage, the oblique line on the thyroid cartilage, and the cricoid cartilage, which is most laterally in the superior relations. Then the inferior relation, inferiorly, it merges with the inferior thyroid vein, then with the brachiocephalic vein, and lastly with the arch of aorta and the pericardium. And laterally, we it forms the anterior of the carotid sheath and is and fuses with the fascia posterior to the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Now we shall talk about the ligaments of Berry. These are the suspensory ligaments of thyroid gland, which are found by the thickening of the pretracheal fascia. Posteriorly, the pretracheal fascia is thick, and so it attaches the thyroid gland to the cricoid cartilage by these ligaments known as ligaments of Berry, and it also prevents the thyroid gland from falling into the mediastinum, and it may also extend to the thyroid cartilage above. So as these ligaments attach the thyroid gland to the cricoid cartilage, if there are swellings in the neck or the swellings of thyroid gland and the swellings of thyroid gland move along with the movements of jaw due to these ligaments, as these ligaments attach the thyroid gland to the cricoid cartilage, to the larynx. And another a very important applied point regarding the pretracheal fascia is that as it goes down from the neck to the heart, the pericardium, the infections of the neck may travel to the suprasternal space or the mediastinum through it. It may occur so due to the course of pretracheal fascia. So now let's begin the main topic, the thyroid gland, and some general points regarding it. So thyroid means shield-like. Its shape is similar to a shield. So it is an endocrine gland which which is present at the front of neck and somewhat extends to the sides of neck, and it is superficially present and so can be palpated over here. Now talking about the functions of thyroid gland, so you will study it in fullest detail in physiology, but for now just some general points. So it's involved in the regulation of BMI, that's the basal metabolic rate. It's necessary for the somatic and psychic growth. You will learn that if there is a thyroid deficiency, then the individual may develop mental retardedness or the impaired development of nervous system and resultant mental retardedness, and many other anomalies occur due to impairment of thyroid function. And it is also involved in calcium metabolism. It secretes a hormone known as calcitonin, thyrocalcitonin, which is involved in the regulation of calcium metabolism. So now let's understand the parts and the location of thyroid gland. So this is the thyroid gland. Here is our hyoid bone. This is the thyroid cartilage, and here is the trachea. And behind the gland there are certain tracheal rings. This is the cricoid cartilage. So talking about the parts of thyroid gland, then it has two lateral lobes and an isthmus connecting the two lateral lobes. This is the isthmus, and these are the two lateral lobes, each on one side. Sometimes we have an extra pyramidal lobe which extends from either the both lateral lobes or from isthmus. In this case, it's extending from the isthmus. And also sometimes we have a fibromuscular band or a muscular band known as levator glandular thyroid. Here it is, and it connects the pyramidal lobe or the isthmus to the hyoid bone. So now, talking about the exact location of the thyroid gland. So these are various levels of vertebrae. This is the level of C3 vertebrae. This is the of C4 and C5. Then C6, then C7, and finally T1. So thyroid gland extends from C5 to T1. The lateral lobes extend from the middle of the thyroid cartilage to the fifth tracheal ring. That was the fifth tracheal ring. And talking about the isthmus, the next isthmus is it extends from the second to fourth tracheal rings. So revising the location again, it extends from C5 to C7 and till T1 vertebral levels. Then the lateral lobe, it is situated from the level of middle of the thyroid cartilage to the fifth tracheal ring. And the isthmus is situated from second to fourth tracheal rings. So now talking about the weight and dimensions of the thyroid gland. So thyroid gland averagely weighs about 25 grams. Talking about the dimensions of lateral lobe. So each lateral lobe has dimensions of 5 into 2.5 into 2.5 centimeters. And the dimensions of isthmus are 1.2 into 1.2 centimeters. So now we shall discuss the capsules of thyroid gland. So there are two capsules, a true capsule and a false capsule. So the true capsule, the inner one, is the condensation of the connective tissue of thyroid gland, whereas the false capsule is the modification of the pretracheal fascia which covers the thyroid gland. And posteriorly, the capsule isn't much thick, it is thin. While on the medial aspect of thyroid gland, I'll show in the coming diagrams that the medial aspect, on the medial aspect of the thyroid gland, the false capsule is thick and attaches the thyroid gland to the cricoid cartilage, and that thickening of the capsule is known as ligaments of Berry, about which I have talked earlier in this video. Also, beneath the true capsule, we have the venous plexuses, and in order to prevent hemorrhages or to avoid hemorrhages during thyroidectomy, both capsules are removed. Both the capsules are removed. This can be compared to prostatectomy. In prostate, the venous plexuses are present between the two layers, the true capsule and false capsule. The venous plexuses are present between them. And so, entire substance of prostate is removed, but the capsule isn't removed, as hemorrhage may occur. So now we shall talk about various parts of the thyroid gland. So this is the anterior view of thyroid gland, and this is the transverse view. Means the neck has been cut like this, and the view, transverse view is this. So each lateral lobe has an apex, a base, three surfaces: the lateral surface, the posterolateral surface, and the medial surface, and two borders: anterior border and the posterior border. Similarly, the isthmus has two borders and two surfaces: the superior border and the inferior border. And the surfaces are the anterior surface and the posterior surface. So I repeat again: each lobe has an apex, a base, three surfaces: medial, lateral, and posterolateral, and two borders: anterior and posterior border. Moreover, the isthmus has two borders and two surfaces: the superior and inferior borders, and the anterior and posterior surfaces. So now we shall discuss the relations of various parts of thyroid gland, and let's begin with the apex and the medial surface. So firstly, let's get oriented with the structures present in the diagram. So this is the hyoid bone, this is the thyroid cartilage, and this is the cricoid cartilage, and the various structures joining them. The thyroid membrane joins the thyroid cartilage and the hyoid bone. The cricothyroid membrane joins cricoid cartilage and the thyroid cartilage. So this is the superior thyroid artery, and this is the superior laryngeal nerve. Now superior laryngeal nerve divides into external and internal laryngeal nerve. The internal laryngeal nerve, along with the superior laryngeal branch of superior thyroid artery, pierces the thyrohyoid membrane, and then it runs forwards. So we discussed one of these branches, the internal laryngeal nerve, which pierces the thyrohyoid membrane. The external laryngeal nerve runs along with the superior thyroid artery, and these two are the relations of the apex. We have two relations of the apex: the superior thyroid artery and the external laryngeal nerve. Now the surface facing us is the lateral surface, and the surface opposite to it, which is to be imagined, is the medial surface. And that medial surface is related to two tubes, two nerves, and two muscles. So in all, six structures. So the two muscles are the middle constrictor muscle of pharynx and the cricothyroid, the muscle joining thyroid cartilage and cricoid cartilage. And also, it is supplied by the external laryngeal nerve, and that nerve also is included in the medial relations of thyroid gland. So it's easy to remember. Here is the external laryngeal nerve supplying the cricothyroid muscle. So we have two nerves, the recurrent laryngeal nerve and the external laryngeal nerve, and two tubes, the two very famous and crucial tubes, trachea and esophagus. So I repeat all the relations again. Apex is related to two structures, the superior thyroid artery and the external laryngeal nerve, and the medial surface is related to six structures: two muscles, that is the middle constrictor and the cricothyroid; two nerves, that is the external laryngeal nerve and the recurrent laryngeal nerve, both laryngeal nerves. And the external laryngeal nerve supplies the cricothyroid muscle, and two very necessary and crucial tubes, the trachea and esophagus. So now we shall discuss the relations of the lateral surface and the posterolateral surface. And this is the diagram of the transverse section of neck, which shows all the structures present in the neck. This is the skin, outermost layer. Then we have the superficial fascia, which consists of platysma. And these are various structures, the muscles. This is our thyroid gland. This is the carotid sheath. And these are trachea and esophagus. Laterally, we have four muscles: the sternohyoid, suprabelly of omohyoid, sternothyroid, and the sternocleidomastoid. This can be remembered easily as all these three muscles, sternohyoid is the nearest to thyroid gland, and so it can be identified. This was to avoid confusion between sternohyoid and sternothyroid. So the posterolateral surface has the carotid sheath in its relations, and it also overlaps the common carotid artery, which is the content of carotid sheath. Also in this diagram, the relations of carotid sheath the contents and relations can be well appreciated. So the contents are, as you all know, the interjugular vein, laterally. Medially we have the common carotid artery, and posteriorly we have the vagus nerve. Also talking about the relations, anteriorly we have the ansa cervicalis, posteriorly we have the sympathetic chain, and also anteriorly we have the sternocleidomastoid. Also two of the relations of medial surface can be visualized, the trachea and esophagus. So I repeat again, the relations of lateral surface are the sternothyroid, sternohyoid, suprabelly of omohyoid, and the sternocleidomastoid. These four muscles. And the relations of posterolateral surface is the carotid sheath, and the posterolateral surface overlaps the common carotid artery. So now, before discussing the relations of borders and the base, let's first understand the arterial supply of thyroid gland, as without understanding it, you cannot understand these two things. The relations cannot be, you simply will have to mug up those relations without understanding the arterial supply of thyroid gland. I'm expecting you all to revise the branches of external carotid artery and the subclavian artery before understanding this topic. So the arterial supply of thyroid gland is mainly from two arteries, the superior thyroid artery and the inferior thyroid artery. Superior thyroid artery is the branch of external carotid artery, and the inferior thyroid artery is the branch of thyrocervical trunk, a branch of subclavian artery. So firstly, talking about the superior thyroid artery, it runs along with the external laryngeal nerve and pierces through the pretracheal fascia, which covers the thyroid gland. And after that, it gives two branches, the anterior and posterior branch. At the same time, the external laryngeal nerve, which accompanies it, is deviated medially and apart from the artery. Now the anterior branch, anastomosis with its contralateral counterpart, and the posterior branch, anastomosis with the ascending branch of inferior thyroid artery on the posterior border of thyroid gland. The anterior branch anastomosis with its contralateral counterpart on the superior border of the isthmus. Now as these structures are initially together but then deviate apart, during thyroidectomy, there is a risk of damage to the external laryngeal nerve, and so the superior laryngeal artery is ligated nearer to the thyroid gland, and this is the site of ligature of superior thyroid artery. Now, coming to the inferior thyroid artery. So, inferior thyroid artery emerges from the subclavian artery, the thyrocervical trunk. So, these are the other two branches of thyrocervical trunk, the suprascapular artery and the transverse cervical artery. Now, this is the inferior thyroid artery. It goes firstly upwards, then medially, and then downwards, and it is there between the middle cervical ganglion and the vertebral artery. The middle cervical ganglion is in front of it and vertebral artery is behind it. Then it runs downwards and is related to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Its terminal branch is related to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So it gives off 3 and 4 branches which pierce the pretracheal fascia, and one ascending branch which anastomoses with the posterior branch of superior thyroid artery. So now let's discuss the relations of the base of thyroid gland, its posterior border and its anterior border. So anterior border is related to the anterior branch of superior thyroid artery, which anastomoses with its counterpart on the superior border of isthmus. Posterior border has 4 relations: the inferior thyroid artery, then the anastomosis between the ascending branch of inferior thyroid artery and the posterior branch of superior thyroid artery, the parathyroid glands, and the thoracic duct only on the left side. And talking about the relations of the base, so we have two things: the recurrent laryngeal nerve and the inferior thyroid artery. Also, there are 2 additional arteries which supply the thyroid gland. One is the IMI thyroid artery, or the lowest thyroid artery, which is present in 3% of individuals. It arises from either the brachiocephalic trunk or the arch of aorta itself and supplies the thyroid gland. And the fourth one is the accessory thyroid artery, which arises from tracheal or esophageal artery, and it also supplies the thyroid gland. So all in all, we have 4 arteries. the superior thyroid artery, inferior thyroid artery, and two accessories which may be present or which are of not much importance. So these are the ima thyroidi, that is the lowest thyroid artery, and the accessory thyroid artery. So these are the four arteries. So I'm enlisting the relations of anterior and posterior borders in the base again. So anterior border is related to the anterior branch of superior thyroid artery, which anastomoses with its contralateral counterpart. Then the posterior border has four things: the inferior thyroid artery, the anastomosis between the ascending branch of inferior thyroid artery and the posterior branch of superior thyroid artery, the parathyroid glands, and the thoracic duct only on left side. And the base has two things in its relation: the inferior thyroid artery and the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Now we'll discuss the relations of the isthmus. So as I said, there are four parts of isthmus: the two surfaces, the anterior and posterior surfaces, and the superior and inferior border, and all these have their respective relations. So beginning with the superior surface, it is related to the anastomosis between the anterior branches of two superior thyroid arteries of two sides. And coming to the inferior border, so the inferior thyroid veins comes out of this border. Then coming to the anterior surface, so we have the skin and fascia, the anterior jugular veins, and the sternohyoid and sternothyroid muscles of both sides. Lastly, talking about the posterior surface, so it has second to fourth tracheal rings. So now let's discuss the venous drainage of thyroid gland. So it is into three veins: superior thyroid vein, middle thyroid vein, and the inferior thyroid vein. Superior and middle thyroid veins drain into the internal jugular vein, and the inferior thyroid vein drains into the brachiocephalic vein. So this is our superior thyroid vein, which drains from the upper pole of thyroid gland, and it ends up in the internal jugular vein. Then we have the middle thyroid vein, which drains the middle part of the lateral lobe of thyroid gland, and is a short and wide channel, and it also drains into internal jugular vein. And lastly, the inferior thyroid vein, which emerges from the inferior border of the isthmus and is drained into the brachiocephalic vein. So a fourth vein, known as the vein of Kocher, may emerge between the middle and inferior thyroid veins. So now coming to the lymphatic drainage of thyroid gland. So the upper part of thyroid gland is drained into the upper deep cervical lymph nodes, either directly or through prelaryngeal lymph nodes. And the lower part of thyroid gland is drained into the lower deep cervical lymph nodes. That also either directly or through pretracheal or paratracheal lymph nodes. Now this is also easy to remember, as we have the larynx above the trachea. So larynx is upper and trachea is lower compared to it. So for the upper part, we have the upper deep cervical lymph nodes, and either directly or through prelaryngeal lymph nodes. And the lower part, we have the lower deep cervical lymph nodes, either directly or through pretracheal or paratracheal lymph nodes. Now coming to the nerve supply of thyroid gland. This nerve supply has vasoconstrictor action. Chiefly we have the middle cervical ganglion, and partly there is involvement of superior and inferior cervical ganglia. So the nerve supply is mainly from middle cervical ganglion. So this was all about thyroid gland. I hope you enjoyed learning with me. Thanks for watching.